Welcome, Mrs. Karwal. It is a honor to have you. Just to give you a context, we have with us, so the Governance Challenge is a competition that is hosted across top 35 B school and policy schools across the country. There were 3,100 teams that participated in round one, and now we have the top 30 finalists out of those 3,100 teams. These 30 teams this year round, the anchor state is Odisha and the anchor domain is women empowerment. With the problem statement is where the problem statement for each team is how can Odisha ensure that they get to SDG 5 goals around women empowerment by 2030. So these are the top 30 finalist team. Yesterday we had the day one where there were rounds of keynote sessions as well as panel discussion, and 15 teams went through a jury panel. Today also we have a couple of keynote sessions as well as a panel discussion where we are focusing on a theme of youngsters in impact sector. And then the remaining 15 teams will be going through a jury panel comprising of a government officer as well as an industry practitioner. So over to you, Mrs. Karwal. We are really excited to hear your journey as well as about national education policy.
Thank you, Utkarsh. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, and good morning to all of you. It's such a pleasure to be with youngsters, interact with youngsters, the makers of India. We've done our bit, handing over the flag to you. It's amazing to be with you. And I can see the mix. It's from all over the country, down south, Tiruchirappalli, you have from the east, it's amazing. I'm really glad to be with you people today. Utkarsh has already told you about my background. I don't think I want to labor on that area too much. Just want to mention that it's wonderful to be in the government. If any one of you are considering giving these civil services exams, it doesn't pay you as well as an IIM graduate may get at the end of the day. But the satisfaction is so immense, and the scale at which we function, the opportunities of um, work and reform which are there, that kind of scale you will not get in any private sector. The way we touch lives of people and what we get in return is not only blessings from the people, but also a lot of job satisfaction. So I thought I should mention that to you. Now, coming to what I was told to speak about today, which is the national education policy. Let me begin by saying, and you must have heard this statement very often, that future is at our doorsteps. I want to say that future is not at our doorsteps. It is inside our homes. It is running in our taps in the kitchen. It is all over the place. Actually, the kind of disruptions which have happened of late particularly, but which have been happening over the years, from environment to climate to the chat GPTs to what is happening in the society. We are a society which is now open to all genders. I believe there are 79 genders in the USA now which are part of the system. The way we are trying to dominate natural resources, the wars, and the way wars are being fought, there are proxy wars as well as physical wars. So everything is changing. And this period of change, I don't know if you've heard this word, is defined as Anthropocene. The age is called Anthropocene, which means the age of the dominance of man on every aspect of life, from natural resources to everything else, technology, etc. Now, in this age and day, if we continue with the kind of education that we have been giving so far, it is impossible for our children and our future citizens to be able to contribute to the growth of society, economy, even politics, to environment, to technology, etc. So, in that background, it was that the NEP was drafted, prepared, and launched after 34 years. The last policy was 1986. This policy is 2020. It took us 34 years to realize that the policy is not working and we need something. And interestingly, the present NEP has a sunset clause. It clearly mentions that this policy will work till 2040. Now, this is the first time it is happening in a policy, and that too in education policy. I'm not sure any country does this. We've done this, which means we have to be prepared with the next policy in 2040. And obviously, the preparations will begin 6 to 7 years in advance. For example, in this one, it took us almost 5 to 6 years. 5 to 6 years of major consultation across the country, from village to village, town to town, guided surveys, non-guided surveys, guided discussions, non-guided discussions, stakeholder consultation. We went to the extent of talking to sarpanches, the panchayat members, homemakers, uh, people who have children going to school who could be from any profession, teachers, experts, university professors, IIMs, ISERs, everything. It was the largest consultation process undertaken for any policy in India. And that is what defines NEP, because this consultation led to a lot of changes in the ideas that we had started with. Of course, the cherry topping on the dessert was that after the consultation got over, and when we presented it to the Honorable Prime Minister, we got so many more ideas, because here is a man with so much vision who has been in touch with the grassroots all his life, who has worked at that level. He gave us several ideas, which we then incorporated also in the NEP. And I always like to give the example of the holistic progress card, which is entirely his idea. It was not a part of the NEP when we had prepared the draft, where he speaks about that the future does not require us to focus only on the cognitive aspects of the child. The future requires us to focus on the whole child, not the partial child. Right now, school education and college education is all about leaving your spiritual, ethical, moral, social, emotional, physical self at home and going with your mental self to the institution, sitting there, rote learning, and trying to get education. This is something which, during our discussions with the Honorable PM, he said, no, this will not do. So therefore, the progress of the child should be measured in a holistic manner where all aspects should be looked at: the spiritual aspect, the mental aspect, the psychomotor aspect, the affective aspect, the ethical aspect, the moral aspect, etc., etc. So the making of the policy itself, it actually opened like a thriller. Every day we would come across something new. There would be suggestions from people which would just take us aback, that here is a homemaker making such a fantastic suggestion. And then, of course, we did incorporate all these suggestions into the policy. And so here is a policy which which India made for us. It has not been made by policymakers alone. It has been made by the citizens of India. Now, what are the salient features? I thought I should mention that, because since you're working on women's empowerment, it will be very important for you to understand that how this is going to impact on women's empowerment as well. Now, what this policy has done is that for the school sector, it has said that the whole policy will be aligned to the developmental goals of a child. So, how does a child physically develop? How does a child cognitively develop, socially, morally, and emotionally? So, a 5-year-old child will have a different set of emotions and, moral development or physical development or cognitive development as compared to a 15-year-old child. So, the whole policy revolves around this development and aligns not just the pedagogy and the curriculum and the content and textbooks, but also the assessment. The whole contextualization process of the content is actually aligned to the developmental goals. This is the first time any policy in the entire world is aligning itself to the stage-wise development of the child. So which means the first 5 years, which means the age group of 3 to 8, very clearly the policy, for example, I'm just giving you an example, says that you cannot get the child to sit down and study in the chalk and board method. In this age group, you only and only have to focus on the play method. And by play method, you have to do the pedagogy, you have to have transact the entire curriculum and actually do the assessment also in the play method. There will be no pen and paper assessment at this stage till grade 2. Only observation, how the child is playing. Does the child play in team? Has the child got any moral issues, social issues? Is the child physically active? Is the child able to cognitively grasp things through the play method? So all, if you will see, the whole policy for the school part is aligned to this. So this is one of the most important features. And why this is important for women's empowerment is that there is a special focus on the first 5 years, which are called the foundational years for the child. Now, the foundational years, that is up to the age of 8, it is scientifically researched, studied, and known that the brain growth happens in spurts, right? Up to the age of 40, we have a spurt phase and a plateau phase. You guys are also going to go through spurt and plateau up till the age of 40. The first spurt is 0 to 7 years. When the synapses in the brain, that is the neurons, when they touch each other and connect to each other, it's called a synapse. The brain cells are called neurons. When the synapses in the brain form at the rate of 1 million a minute, to form those synapses, it is important that the child is exposed to abundant stimulation and interactions. If that happens, the synapses keep forming. If you keep the child in a closed room, it doesn't happen. The child has to continuously keep playing, activity, meeting people, going for visits, touching things, eating, learning to eat, learning to go to the loo, cleaning themselves up, all kinds of things. These are stimulations. Interacting with people, collaborating. If this doesn't happen, the rest, as the NEP says, the rest of the policy is irrelevant if the foundational learning outcomes and the cognitive, psychomotor, and affective growth does not take place. Therefore, for any woman or a man to be able to contribute to society at a later stage, it is important that their foundational area is focused upon. That is the time when a child learns to read so that they are able to read to learn at a later stage. Unless the child acquires the basic numeracy and literacy skills at this stage, the rest of their lives is useless, because this is the spurt phase. Then the plateau comes. Then after 7 years, again the spurt comes. It's not as if we cannot tap the 14, 15, 16-year-olds. We can, but we have lost a great deal. So this is one of the most important aspects of the NEP. Now, coming to the other salient features which relate to higher education, and they're common to higher education and school education. One is the focus on language. All of us are talking in English right now. We are born and brought up in this age of English. Believe me that there is a population of at least 20 crore students in higher education and in school education who have no bloody exposure to English in their lives. They are coming to school, they are coming to college, and they don't have any idea what is happening inside the classroom. Unless they are taught in their own language, how are they going to learn? How is their cognitive growth going to happen? And this whole focus on English is a very British intervention. It happened when the Prussian model was introduced into India. So therefore, it is important that we teach in the language of the child at any stage, higher education, school education. This is a salient feature of NEP. Multilingualism is something which is very interesting in NEP. There is scientific research which says that a child in the foundational and preparatory stages up to grade 5 or 6 is in a position to learn multiple languages because of the way the brain is working at that time. And therefore, multilingualism is also stressed upon at all stages, even in higher education. The more you learn, the more you're exposed to, the more knowledge you will get, the more accessible technology, etc., will be. The multidisciplinary approach is there in both higher and school education. So earlier, so far, even what you are learning, I don't know, you may be having siloed subjects. So you have a discipline, you focus on the discipline, but you don't look into the aspects which impinge on the topic that you're learning, the aspects which could be related to 15 other disciplines. So multidisciplinarity is all about that. Then In higher and school education, competency-based education and skill-based education has been introduced through NEP. Now, that is something which will impinge on women's empowerment as well. What are we producing from school education and higher education today? We are producing children and adults who come out very well versed with textbooks, syllabus, and curriculum. Are they well versed with the competencies and the skills that they need to deal with real life and the future that is impinging upon them? No. So now what the NEP has provided for in higher in school is that it is not textbooks which we need to complete. It is not chapters and index that we need to complete. It is competencies that we need to acquire. It is skills that we need to acquire. What are these competencies and skills? So competencies, of course, there is a whole framework that there are competencies like critical thinking and problem solving, communication, collaboration. You have skills also, competencies and skills, there is a very thin line. Okay. So you have skills such as environmental literacy, digital literacy, financial literacy, technology literacy, media literacy, information literacy, gender literacy. These are all skills and competencies which the child at school and college has to acquire. And therefore, the focus has to shift now so that the child and the adult comes out of their institution completely strengthened in these areas and is able to take the future and the present head on. That is the idea. Also, another very interesting aspect of this NEP is the flexible approach. Flexible approach, what language does the child want to learn? What choices do they want in subjects? You don't have to take physics, chemistry, and biology. You can take physics with confectionery and fashion designing. There is no problem now. It has actually in the CBSE, this was always there, but it was never implemented. But now it is going to be implemented. Even at higher stages and higher education, this flexibility is there. And the best thing is the academic bank of credit. Now you guys can do your first year in college and you want to do some work or there is some reason that you can't continue your studies, get a certificate in first year, get out. Go out into the world for 2-3 years, work and come back and join in second year because your first year would have been credited in your academic bank. When you join in second year, you can again take a diploma and get out. Third and fourth year karoge to aapko degree milegi. So these kind of things which are there in the NEP, it overall lead to a future which we are able to take care of. There's one last very interesting aspect of NEP, which again impinges on empowerment, and that is contextualization. So what the NEP says is that no content, no teaching learning material should be non-contextualized. Now, what do I mean by contextualization? Contextualization means it should be related to events, situations, ideas, topics, culture, traditions, languages that we actually deal with every day, that we actually see every day around us. It cannot be cut off from this. The moment we cut off content and teaching learning material from this, engagement with learning doesn't happen. So to empower people, they have to be able to access contextualized material, which is one of the biggest challenges today for our country, to prepare contextualized material. Now, what are the challenges? Because you would be working, I think, on areas of challenges and trying to solve them. So I thought I'll mention just 3-4 challenges which are, before I sign off. One, of course, is the challenge of national education policy literacy and the curriculum framework literacy. This is a huge challenge because we are continuing our age-old methods of literacy. बुलाओ, ट्रेनिंग करो, घर भेजो. ट्रेनिंग में खाना खिलाओ, 2-4 मटेरियल दो, one way talking like what I'm doing with you, and घर भेज दो. What the people require now is people are so adept with media, social media, chat GPTs, and the attention span, the concentration span is so low. It's not more than 5 minutes. So can we do NEP and CF literacy through bite-sized material? I mean, these are the challenges that we have to look into. It's a huge challenge. And this is the first major thing. The second thing is NEP very clearly says that every child and adult who comes out of an educational institution should be a lifelong learner. अब लाइफलॉन्ग लर्निंग के लिए हमको उनकी भाषा में मटेरियल तो देना पड़ेगा ना, कॉन्टेक्स्ट देना पड़ेगा, मटेरियल देना पड़ेगा. इज इट देयर? इट इज नॉट देयर इन ऑन आवर होराइजन. सो दिस इज अगेन अ ह्यूज चैलेंज. आप अंग्रेजी में ही फीड करते रहोगे इनको, तो how will a Odia person or a Telugu person actually get exposed to lifelong learning? And lifelong learning may be learning about aspects which are futuristic. He may learn about, ancient literature, etc., which may be available. But उस बंदे को आप कैसे बताओगे कि अब हम स्पेस में जा रहे हैं, अब जो है टेस्ला has become electric and it may start working on water for all you know in the future. These things this person needs to be exposed to. So lifelong learning के लिए material कैसे बनेगा? The third thing which I feel is the variety. Content ki variety we do not have. So we have typical textbooks for you guys also. You will, I'm sure all of you refer to 8 to 10 textbooks, and generation after generation you're doing it. Of course, now there is a lot of material online, but that online content has to be curated. It has to be in the language, as I said earlier, it has to be a variety. It has to be in all kinds of formats. It has to be audio, it has to be video, it has to be braille, it has to be in the form of theater, movies, films, all kinds of things. Because hamara attention span nahi hai for the same textual material of 500 pages. So we need to get into that zone as well. And the last challenge that I want to mention to you is how do we keep our students, our teachers, and since we are talking about women's empowerment, how do we keep our women abreast of all the disruptions? Because if they are not abreast with the disruptions, then they are not in the present or the future, they are actually living in the past. So how do we do that? So in my view, since I was told to speak only for 15 minutes and I have exceeded it by almost 3 to 4 minutes, I'm going to cut myself short here now because apparently you would have some questions. So this is what I had to say about the NEP, and I am ready to interact with you through email or WhatsApp at any point of time. I'm going to request Utkarsh to give my email and number to all of you, because you are the 30 chosen teams. You are the best in this country. And in any way I can be of help to you, I would love to be. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am, for those amazing insights into the NEP. We have a few questions from the audience. I'll be taking the questions from the chat. So, folks, if you still have questions, you can still put it in the chat itself. So, the first question that I will be taking up is from Archit Katare from Bitsom. So, he's asked that to extract so much information by executing primary research, which included visiting villages and towns of India, would have required many stakeholders to work together. How was the team able to bring everyone on a single page and then make a change? Following this, how did you resolve conflicts during decision making?
It's an amazing question. Yes, this involved a huge number of teams, the entire NCERT, and it has 4 units in 4 parts of the country, several universities and their professors, entire CBSE, a whole lot of schools which cooperated with us, and the entire state government education machinery, higher education as well as school education, down till the district and school level. They were all involved in this. And culling out research and studies was a huge, huge process. And I mean, we have literally lighted the night lamp for months together. It has been a very, very difficult process. In fact, I remember that when we got when we put up for suggestions after the draft was ready, and we put it up on the website, within 20 days, we got 1.6 lakh suggestions, and we had put it up for 15 days, 15-20 days. उसमें 1.5 lakh suggestions आ गए थे. उसमें जो हमने committee बनाई थी, so I was heading that committee. I remember going to office at 5:30 in the morning, continuing till 2:30 a.m. in the night, only so that we could sort these out. My committee could go through each and every suggestion and come out, because we had barely 2 months in between to finalize which suggestions are to be taken, etc. So yes, it's been a process. There have been conflicts, but conflicts were mostly resolved by majority vote, if what I mean, because we would be a large group of people working on this. So it was a very, like I said, it was a thrilling process. It was not a difficult process. The whole process was amazing, what we went through.
Great. That's amazing to hear, ma'am, and very very insightful in terms of the holistic experience of running there. We have the next question from Saloni from XIMB. How the barrier of lack of digital and modern infrastructure in public school and institutions in rural area is being addressed for the holistic education of students under NEP 2020.
So look, that Saloni, when we started with the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan somewhere in 2000, early part of the century, we focused on infrastructure. So for the primary education part, that is up to grade 8, infrastructure is more than enough. In fact, it is so much that now schools are being merged at various places because there is too much infrastructure for primary schools. There is a lack of infrastructure for secondary schools and higher education. So higher education, even today, we are able to admit approximately 50 to 60 lakh students every year, ranging up to a crore also. Whereas 2.5 crore children pass out grade 12 every year. The total intake of higher education as of today is approximately 3 crores. But 2.5 crore are passing out every year. So there is lack of infrastructure there, as well as in secondary level. How is it being addressed is, see, India is not a very resource-rich country. So one, of course, what is being done is merger of schools and whatever of primary schools, and whatever infrastructure is left behind, it is being used for secondary level. At higher level also, the pace of increase in the seats has also increased. It's going to take us time, the physical infrastructure. I cannot give you a rosy picture right now, but we have an extremely rosy picture at the primary level and a fairly rosy one at the secondary level. And I would say that we need to work at the higher education level. With the digital infrastructure, pre-COVID, we found that it was very difficult to get across. And schools as well as higher education were not adept and did not have the equipment and the machinery or the internet connectivity. But during COVID, there was a sudden spurt, because of which one of our surveys showed that approximately 65 to 69% schools actually had connectivity and equipment. Uh, Even higher education to a very large extent. But that is not the solution. The child is, or the adult is not getting online material at home, then we have not given accessibility. In school education, we have done a very interesting experiment, which has really worked. And I must mention it to you. It's called Energized Textbooks. I don't know if any one of you have heard about it. So Energized Textbooks is, what we have done is that all our prescribed textbooks will have QR codes in each chapter and even at the hard spots. And behind the QR code would be the material, the extra material, which is required to understand that topic or the hard topic. And this, through our Diksha platform, the entire book's QR codes can be downloaded within 3 minutes, and they remain permanently available for you on your phone. Now we have a mobile phone revolution. Almost every family has it. So at least we have been able to make this kind of material accessible through Energized Textbooks. I'm sure there will be many more solutions, but we need solutions. Chatbot is a very interesting solution. Podcasts are a very interesting solution, but I think we need many, many more solutions to make it more accessible.
We have a next question from Dr. Vaibhav Sindhi from ISPP. Thank you so much for a simple explanation for such a complex problem. The question is that how will the job market react to dropping out in first year and rejoining after a couple of years, will there be acceptance of such certifications for each year?
So firstly, it is not going to happen en masse, I'm sure. Secondly, yes, there will have to be acceptance. When the policies are accepting it, then there has to be acceptance. Now, for this, UGC is the main body, as you may be aware, the University Grants Commission. So once it gives a guideline, it becomes acceptable. And UGC, in fact, has already given guidelines for the Academic Bank of Credit. The platform is also almost ready. It is at the trial stage. It has been piloted at several places. So it's only a matter of time when this becomes a reality. And I wish it was there in my time.
Got it. Got it. Uh, it is really great to hear this entire experience of formulating NEP, ma'am, Mrs. Karwal. So, but because we have certain paucity of time, we have arrived at the end of the discussion. There are a lot of questions. We wanted to cover all of them, but because of the time limit, we wouldn't be able to. But it was really great to hear. Especially, I was really wondering on the fact that how scientifically you connected the education with the human development, the growth of a human being, and then how education should be connected with that. It was really great to hear that. And then the fact like 20 crore students are still attending education without having a clue what is being taught just because of the English barrier and the problem of contextualization and curation of content in the country. I think this gives us a lot of food for thought that what are the opportunities that are available in the country in the education space. What is the foundation, and what are the on forward looking opportunities in this space for the people, for the youngsters who are also attending this call, and how they can contribute. We are really grateful to you to attend this session and give insights on your from your experience. Uh, Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mrs. Karwal.
Thank you. Thank you. And do I have the permission to go out now, to
Yes,
leave?
yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And bye, all of you. All the best to all of you. Thank you.
All right. With that insightful session on national education policy and how education can be directly linked to the growth of individuals, the biological growth of individuals, and what are the challenges that all of us would have to look at going forward in education sector. We move to another subject, sports. Sports, I'm sure. Uh, with what we have seen yesterday, a lot of you would have been disappointed and would be feeling that disappointment till now. But now we have an administrator from Odisha who will tell us about the sports transformation journey of Odisha, and the hope that we have not only from cricket but also other sports. We have uh, We have with us Mr. Vinil Krishna. Uh, Good morning, Mr. Krishna. So what I'll do is I'll start with certain introduction and setting up the context, and then I'll hand it over to you. For this keynote, we have with us Mr. R. Vinil Krishna. Mr. Krishna is an IS officer of 2005 batch and is currently working as Special Secretary to Chief Minister Odisha and Commissioner cum Secretary of Sports and Youth Services. In a career spanning over 16 years, he worked in, 18 years, he worked in various capacity, including district magistrate, private secretary to Union Cabinet Minister, Chief Operating Officer for Skill Development Project, CEO of Bhubaneswar Smart City. Mr. Krishna is credited with establishing Odisha as a sports capital of the country. Under him, the sports infra and facilities have improved drastically in the state. He has championed the Odisha's model of sports by partnering with multiple federations, corporates, and sportspersons with a common mission and vision of achieving sports excellence. The results: historic performance of India's men's and women's hockey team in Tokyo Olympic 2022, and recent performance of Odisha State in 37th National Games, winning a total of 58 medals. Welcome, Mr. Krishna. We have with us 30 teams from various colleges across top business schools and policy schools across the country. These 30 teams have been selected out of 3,100 teams who had participated in the round 1 of the governance challenge. Uh, they, the, they were selected after a rigorous evaluation. What we are having today is a 2-day nationals round, where yesterday we had Mrs. Usha Padhi presenting about Udan program, and then a panel on women empowerment, and a jury that evaluated almost 15 teams yesterday. Today we have 2 keynote sessions. The first one, as you are already aware, was taken by Mrs. Anita Karwal on national education policy, and second one is from you. There's a panel discussion on how youth can contribute to the impact sector in the country, including governance, and then that would be followed by the evaluation of the remaining 15 teams by the jury members. So that is how this 2 days are split across. Without taking further time, I'll request you to tell us all about the Odisha sports story. Welcome, Mr. Krishna, again.
Thank you. Good morning to you all. It's really a pleasure to speak and interact with all of you. Of course, it's not the best of the morning to talk about sports in India, but I think we have to just move on. And of course, it is also a context to speak what more we can do about sports and how we need to do, so that we don't have to face these kind of disappointments. And it is from these kind of disappointments where we have started our journey, that year after year, tournament after tournament, Asian Games or Olympics, we just end up with disappointments. And that is where our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Naveen Patnaik, he has decided that we have to do something about sports. And more importantly, when we are such a big, large population of youth, how do we productively engage them? Unless we engage them on a continuous basis, what we think about a demographic dividend can become really a dangerous situation as well. So therefore, sports is very important in the scheme of things of our state government. The vision of our Chief Minister, he famously quotes that sports is for youth, youth is for future. And therefore, we are probably one of the very few states which is investing very seriously in sports. And just to tell that, normally sports department is considered to be a punishment posting. Normally, officers don't like to be posted in sports departments. But you can see the seriousness of our Chief Minister, that I am the Special Secretary to him. He has given me the responsibility to take care of the sports. So that shows the commitment of our Chief Minister towards the youth and towards the sports sector in the country. And another, since you're all from business school, I'll talk it in terms of financial aspects as well. Our budget for sports is, including our budget plus CSR, all put together, close to 1,500 crores, the yearly budget. No state is even near to what we are spending on sports. And if I have to give a comparison on what the central government is spending for the entire country, is I believe close to 4,000 crores. If you can imagine what is the intensity with which we are spending across this state in Odisha, when we are saying that almost like half of the budget of what central government is doing all across the country, we are doing it in a medium-sized state like Odisha. So we are investing a lot in infrastructure. We are supporting the national and international competitions, tournaments. So you'll all be happy to know, and some of you, the football lovers, might be knowing. Tomorrow is the India-Qatar match, which we are hosting here in Kalinga Stadium, Bhubaneswar. And that's a FIFA World Cup qualifier match. And more importantly, what really is exciting for us is that we are establishing a FIFA academy here. Mr. Arsene Wenger is arriving tonight in Bhubaneswar, and we have very good infrastructure which has been developed, which we are converting into India's first FIFA academy. So while cricket dominates the whole sports scenario in the country, we are trying to focus on other sports which are also important, popular, and needs to be supported. So football is one thing which we believe that in the coming years, at least in the next 10, 15, 20 years, football is going to grow really big in the country. Not only men's football, we support the women's football as well. In fact, in women's football, Odisha is the national champion. So that is also a reason why we support women football, and we believe that probably the women team will get into the FIFA World Cup before the men's team does in the coming years. Anyway, so the point being that the competitions is something that we support very seriously. We invest a huge amount of money in popularizing the sports to organizing competitions. I'm sure all of you will know that we have done Hockey World Cup. Successfully, we have done it in 2018 and 2023 as well. And apart from these competitions and the infrastructure, we have a major focus in coaching programs, right from the grassroots level and at a very high performance level. High performance centers have been established. This is where you will again be interested coming from B schools that we are very pragmatic government. So we know the strength and weaknesses of government systems, and therefore we roped in the corporates, because corporates come with their own strength in certain areas. So broadly speaking, we invest in infrastructure. We bring in the corporate sector for the HR part, the soft part of getting the best of the coaches, creating a very flexible coaching program, customized coaching programs, and helping us in various other aspects of coaching. Because corporates also want to do, the disappointment is felt by everybody. So the corporates also want to do something about the sports in the country. And therefore, we have found out certain, we have got this partnership model where we work together with the corporates also in establishing. I'll show you some visuals and talk about it a bit in a while. And we take care of our sports persons really well. So to give an example, recently the Asian Games, some of our Kishore Jana, probably some of you would have heard, he's the silver medalist. He almost was defeating Neeraj Chopra at the Asian Games. So he had a great journey, and whenever they get the medal, they land back here in Bhubaneswar. Next day, we give them the check and we transfer the money. So this is something that we ensure that they don't have to run around our offices for getting the financial support or any other support that they require. We proactively do that and take care of our sports persons. So we have a presentation. I will quickly run through it so that you see the visuals and you understand how these things are done. And later on, we'll take the questions also if you have anything to ask. I hope all of you are able to see the presentation. Next. So this is what I said. This is the quote on which the principle, the vision, which inspires all of us. Next. Next. So our journey started actually in 2017, but before that also we were trying out some things. But primarily it has started in 2017 when we were to organize the Asian Athletic Championship, which we were required to do it in a 90 days period, which we called it as a 90 days challenge. Because it was to be organized in Ranchi, there were some issues there. So therefore they withdrew, and the Athletic Federation wanted us to organize it. And within a very short period, when we were not so much into sports, it was like a prestige of the country, and therefore the Chief Minister directed us that we should do it whatever the cost to it. So we didn't have the tracks, floodlights, nothing was there, and within 90 days we organized the whole thing with almost 1,500 athletes, staff, officials all participating. And therefore we realized the impact of sports in our society, and Chief Minister said that we should expand our programs and support more. And that's how we got into hockey primarily. Hockey currently, we can safely say that Odisha is a global hub for hockey. We have the best stadiums. We have organized all the major tournaments, and we support the Indian hockey teams. And they have also been performing well. They are currently number 3 in the world. And they have defeated all the major main teams as well across the world. So they are in really good shape thanks to the support from the state government. And as you see on the screen, we have conducted almost all the major tournaments at the national level and also at the international level. Of course, Hockey World Cup is what is the main primary thing, but we have been supporting the football also in a major manner. We have done the Intercontinental Championship recently. We have done the SAF and many other competitions over the last 5 to 7 years. And of course, now we are conducting this FIFA World Cup qualifier India-Qatar match next. So these are some of the visuals. So whenever we conduct the competitions, championships at the international level, we believe that we need to set the standards. Best of facilities are to be provided, not only for the players, but also from the spectators' point of view. So you can see that, we really take care. Most of the national federations currently are very happy to work with us because they know that if they bring the championships to Bhubaneswar or to Odisha, then the state will take care of a lot many things. And whenever we organize the championship, our own principle is that we should conduct in the best of the possible manner and create new benchmarks. And therefore, we try to put in place all those kind of systems to ensure this. Next. And we conduct a large number of national championships. So when we conduct the national championship, we say that we have to conduct them in the international standards, so that our national level players will also get that experience of playing in an international standard kind of a championships. Next. And this we do it for sub-junior level, junior level, and senior level, and many leagues also we are conducting at the state level. It's very important that we invest in infrastructure, because infrastructure is what will create that ecosystem where the kids are attracted towards sports. And therefore, right from the block level, district level, regional cities level, and at the state level, we are creating large number of sports projects, sports infrastructure projects. And it is an ongoing thing. Currently, at least 2,500 crore worth projects are almost either in construction space or they're about to be completed and inaugurated. And we have plans to take up maybe another 2,000, 3,000 crore worth projects. They're all in the design stage at this point of time. But it only just to show that what is the intensity with which we are planning to invest in sports, not only in the state capital or nearby areas, but across the thing. You can see that even in the panchayat level, block level, which are nearly at the grassroots level, we are trying to see how we can invest in sports infrastructure. Next. So Kalinga Stadium, these are some of the visuals from the Kalinga Stadium. So Kalinga Stadium is something that we are planning in a manner that it becomes the leading sports hub of the country. I believe 6 of the teams from all of these institutions that are participating, they'll be coming to Bhubaneswar. So I would request Samagra that we can have them a tour of the Kalinga Stadium when they are present here in Bhubaneswar. We'll be happy to host them. They will also like the ambience in which we are operating here in the Kalinga Stadium. Next. So this I'll briefly tell. This is the hockey stadium that we had constructed in Rourkela. This is for the Hockey World Cup. So when we declared the World Cup, there was no stadium here in Rourkela. Unfortunately, COVID hit immediately thereafter. So we had very less time to create this infrastructure. So here you can see the main stadium, the practice center, and just behind the practice center is that entire thing is the World Cup village with 225 rooms accommodation facility to accommodate all the teams which were participating. So it was a major challenge for us to do this construction because of a huge global logistics problems, because of COVID. So practically, we had constructed this entire thing in 15 months, and that 225-room World Cup village we had constructed in 9 months. This is something that is really an amazing thing. It's almost like a miracle. We also never thought that it was a stress for us till the last moment, but we pulled off. But what I would like to mention here is, one, it is the largest fully seated hockey stadium in the world. We have got the Guinness record for this. And as you can see that we try to create a nice ambience, because if you have to improve the sports in the country, it's not just about the players. You need spectators to come. They have to enjoy themselves. They should be hassle-free right from the time when they get onto the road, less traffic. The parking area, how they come to their seat without any major security or other problems, the toilets, the food, the overall ambience that is there in the stadium. Everything has to be really good so that people can come with their families, with kids, and they really enjoy in the stadium. I believe we have been successful in creating that atmosphere. Otherwise, many of you must have visited the stadiums in the country. It's really, by the time you reach the seat, you're already exhausted, you're tired, you're irritated. We didn't want that to happen. If people are willing to go to malls and spend in thousands of rupees for what, the kind of junk food or whatever, why is it that they cannot come to a stadium and spend a decent amount of money on the tickets and all those things, and give them some experience in the stadium itself? So that's why we try to create a nice, good, beautiful stadium and create that ambience, create that benchmarks. Next. So these are some of the facilities that we have for football, and we have conducted the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup last year. That is when we have created all these facilities, which are now among the best in the country. In fact, some of the foreign coaches have come and they told us that they have seen these kind of facilities in Europe. They are on par with that, and we are very, very proud about what we have created here. Next. And it's not only about the state level. These are the block level. You can see in the picture that the turf is something, it's out of nowhere. It's in a panchayat in a rural area where hockey is very prominent there, popular there. So therefore, we thought we should create that facilities at that level, so that right from a very, very young age, they are used to the proper facilities there. So this is a tennis center. Next. Like this, the indoor stadiums we had constructed all across the state. So this again we have constructed because during the COVID period we realized that we need multi-purpose facilities in times of pandemic, so that we can convert these facilities into quarantine centers or field hospitals if required. And therefore, in the normal times, there can be the sports facilities, and these are something that we have created across, and we have plans to do a few more in the coming years. Next. So this is our indoor aquatic center. These are all the real pictures, not the 3D images. And these are all, this is again, indoor aquatics is something that it is one of its kind facility in the country. We don't invest too much of indoor facilities. That is also the reason why our sports persons are not able to practice well, say during the peak summer or monsoon season. So we need to create more of indoor centers as well. Next. This is this is India's first indoor athletic stadium, and you can see some more. We have a badminton high performance center and many other buildings coming up. Next. Since there is paucity of time, I'll just skip most of the slides. So we are taking care of the coaching programs across. Next. Next. Something in chess also we have done a lot. Next. FIFA Academy is coming up, as I have mentioned. Next. More importantly, we are working with the schools. We are directly working with the International Olympic Committee. You can see Mr. Thomas back there, who's the president of the IOC. And this Olympic Value Education program, which we conduct in 350 schools in Odisha. Next. Then we have summer camps, a lot of activities. Next. Then coaches education is an important thing which we conduct regularly. Next. We have sports hostels across the state. Next. Many of you will be knowing that we are the sponsor of the Indian hockey teams. Next. We also promote indigenous sports like Kho-Kho. We have a team, our own team in the Kho-Kho league. Next. something like rugby, which many of you may not know, Odisha promotes, and we are the champions in that. Next. And we also support the rugby national teams, women team, and swimming federation also, we support them, we partner with them. Next. So this is a model that I was talking about in corporate partnership. So these are the what the government of India does, what the government of Odisha does, and what the corporate partners do. This is where it is. We typically, the corporate partner brings in the soft component of coaching program, nutrition, sports science support, etc. Next. So these are the corporate high performance centers, or corporate partnerships through which we have established. So these are all the different corporates and the sports discipline in which we have established. Next. So these are some of the visuals from our coaching programs, our high performance centers. Next. This is a Guinness record for the Birsa Munda Stadium. Next. And we have been awarded many times the best state for promotion of sports. Next. And we have a lot of medals that we have been winning, and we take care of our athletes, sportsmen also very well. Next. We give them a lot of cash awards and jobs, financial support for training, etc. Next. So some adventure sports also we support, like mountaineering. Next. So this is just a thing to show how quickly we are growing in terms of investment in sports. Next. So that's it from my side. If there are any queries, I'll take.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Krishna, for that. I think we'll take 3 questions because of paucity of time. Venkatesh, my colleague, he would be picking up the questions from the chat and moderating it. Venkatesh.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. So we have a few questions. The first one is from Rutuja Patil from IIM Lucknow. She says that it's been an immense pride to see the commitment towards sports. As a hockey player myself who has represented Maharashtra in nationals, I remember the hurdles we faced 10 years back, the district to national and international level. I would like to know, how can Odisha government help other state governments to achieve the remarkable feat as Odisha in collaboration with the union government? Is there any program currently outlined for the same?
So thank you. We understand the problems you have faced. That's why I was saying we do a lot. In fact, we send all our sportspersons by flights only for all the national championship, so that it's a very important day for the entire year. They wait for that one day when they have to perform in most of the sports disciplines, and therefore they need to be treated well. They need to be treated with dignity. Coming to the query of how do we support other state governments? Normally in our high performance centers, we take 25% of the students from outside Odisha as well. So we don't treat them as only state high performance centers. We want them to emerge as the national centers. So to some extent, we take care of the other state athletes in this manner. And whenever the state governments, most of them have sent their delegates, they try to understand what we are doing. So by setting an example, setting certain benchmarks, we believe that other state governments will also be inspired to take up these kind of activities. And it has started. And it is giving some momentum to sports development. We have some MOUs like with Tamil Nadu government also to exchange the teams, facilities also we utilize. Beyond that, it's difficult for us to do it because that's really not our mandate as the state government, but we are always there to help the other states.
Got it. We have a next question from Shramay Jha from Bitsong. When looking for partnerships for the sports program, how did you identify corporate partners who you wanted to target?
So typically it's a combination of both ways. We identifying some corporates or other corporates also coming to us and saying that we want to partner. So it works both ways. Say for example, in the case of hockey, so Tata already is present in Odisha, so we requested them if they can take up hockey as their as a partner. So since they already had one academy in Tata's, they invest in sports. They have an academy in Jamshedpur as well. So we thought it will be easier for them to expand here in Odisha also when we provide the best of the facilities. Secondly, for example, now they are going to take up archery. So, the majority of the archers have come from Tata Archery Academy. So that way we do it. JSW Sports is there in a big way in sports. So we have requested them, why don't you take up swimming? Swimming is something that India doesn't do well. We do very well in athletics, while swimming has so many medals and we don't do well at all at the Asian level. So therefore, we asked them to do that. Now they are big time into swimming across our state. So it works both ways. And since all of you will be in corporate sector, I believe in some position in the coming years, I would suggest that you should always try to see how a part of your CSR goes into the sport and where it is actually required also. And within your organization also try to promote sports. Sports is a culture. If you have seen Australians winning almost so easily yesterday, it's not right from their childhood they are into sports. Somebody has said that we try to bring in a mental conditioning coach or some sports psychologist at a late stage in life and try to put it with the team. It doesn't work that way. If the child right from, let's say, 6 years, 8 years, he continuously participates in competitions, then he will become mentally strong. Mentally strong cannot happen after 18 years, 20 years, because some coach is telling to them how to be mentally strong. So therefore, we need to create that culture of competitions throughout the childhood as well, so that they are mentally strong. Winning, losing, they're strong and they have that competitive ability. And that's what happened in countries like Australia. Cricket is not even like the most popular thing in Australia, but still you see how greatly they play, and they don't get any great support from their federation or from the government. It is their passion, and that happens right from the it's a culture, it's a sports culture. So all of us have to, since you'll be in a position where you'll be having certain finances to support. So I would sincerely request all of you to consider sports as the main activity in CS.
I think we can take one last question. This is from Surbhi from I am Indore. What are some specific challenges while promoting women's sports as compared to men's sports? How difficult has it been to bring about attitudinal change?
Actually, our girls have been doing much better than the boys. Whatever gold medals we have got it in national medal is thanks to the girls only. So as a state government also, women empowerment and investment in women development is a major priority for the chief minister. And therefore, we proactively support the women sports persons. I don't think we have any serious challenges there. The only kind of an issue is the academic career, and what happens with the women sports persons is that after a certain age they start having family pressure. They will peak somewhere in their mid 20s or late 20s. That is when most of the sports persons usually tend to peak, and that is when they face the family pressure of marriage and those kind of things, and that really is a bit difficult. So typically what we find is that in a national championship, they get a medal around 20, 21, 22. We give them some government job, then their motivation levels go down, and they would like to settle down in a family life. So that challenge is there.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Krishna. That brings us to the end of this keynote session. It was really wonderful to understand the commitment of the state in the terms of budget also, and the proportion of the budget, 1,500 crores versus 4,000 crore at a national level. It's truly eye-opening. The commitment to the sports person in terms of infra, facility, and the coaching program, and to top it all, having that attitude of supporting the sports person, the smallest of example of just providing flights to the sports person, and also understanding that is one day that they have been preparing for. So I think that's really great. The other insight that I could draw from the session was around making sports an entertainment thing, so that citizens at large in the country or in the states are interested in it. The parallel that you drew between a mall and a sports stadium, I think that's another lens of looking at a sports and popularizing sports in the country. We are really grateful to you to take out time for this session. We have all been enlightened by the Odisha's sports journey. and we really thank you. Thank you, Mr. Krishna, for taking out time.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to interact with all of you. And I hope all of you will eat healthy, stay fit, and be an example for others and promote the sports culture in the country. All the best.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So that was our second keynote session for the day. Moving from the second keynote session, we have a panel lined up for you. The panel would be hosted by my colleague, Mr. Nikhil Nadigar, who is a senior manager in Samagra. Hi, Nikhil. Welcome to the Governance Challenge Nationals Round, Day 2. We are eager to witness the panel. I'll hand it over to you to take it forward.
Thank you so much, Utkarsh. Hi, everyone. I think the panelists are here as well. We have Aparajita, we have Supriya, and we have Tanuj. Without wasting much time, I'll just quickly introduce them and then we'll get started. So we have Tanuj Bhojwani. Tanuj, if you can just wave to everyone.
Hello.
Tanuj did his chemical engineering from IIT Bombay. He's worked with iSpirit. He has also been an independent consultant to UNDP. He's currently on the board of DPG Alliance, which is a global alliance for digital public goods. And he's also the head of People Plus AI. Right, so that's Tanuj. Then we have Supriya. Supriya, if you can wave to everyone as well. So Supriya has done her law from Nalsar in Hyderabad. She's worked with the Ashoka Innovators for Public. She was the director there, working with a lot of social entrepreneurs. And then for the longest time now, she's been in the legal space. She's the co-founder of Agami as well, which is a non-profit working on justice and legal. Then finally, we have Aparajita. Aparajita, if you can wave to everyone. So Aparajita did her undergraduation from Delhi University. I'm assuming some of you are from there. Then she did her master's in public policy from Oxford in the UK. She's also worked in the corporate space. She's been in Snapdeal. She was part of Catalyst. Currently, she's the co-founder of YLAC, Young Leaders for Active Citizenship, along with Rohit. And she's also the co-founder of the Quantum Hub Consulting. So she's been working in the research and policy domain for a long time as well. So those are the three people. So let me, so the topic for today is catalysts for change. How do you drive impact within and beyond government? So we'll keep that focused. So to everyone, if you have whatever questions that you might have, please feel free to keep sharing it in the chat. Towards the end, we'll pick up all of those questions and all the three of them can answer them. So first question, which is for all three of you, Supriya, Aparajita, and Tanuj. What made you join this impact social enterprise, whatever we want to call this, right? All of us have different names. What made you join this? Was this some pivotal moment in your life, that some experience and you changed your way of looking at things? Or was it a gradual process, or was it anything else? How do you look at your own journey? Whichever one wants to go first.
Somebody has to pick. Nikhil, you can't that part of us. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be a pehle aap in a virtual context. So.
Okay. Since Aparajita didn't say anything, I'll pick up Aparajita.
Okay, great. So thanks, Nikhil, for calling me here and sharing our journey here, I think, with this group. So I think for me, actually, I went to College of Business Studies in Delhi University. I think all of these folks are from MBA colleges. I'm sure there are a lot of people from CBS. There, it's an undergrad management college, very focused on placements and corporate careers, etc., etc. But I actually was a street theater enthusiast. And while I was in college, I started this thing called Manthan with my group, where we actually decided to take street theater back to streets instead of it just being something that happens on campus. And I used to write plays and direct plays. And for that, had to do research on what's going on in the country, what kind of issues should we pick that people would find relatable. And I think that is what really made me think that what do I want to do with my life? Because it was just so exciting to be out in the streets and talking to people. At that time in 2009, we had the Mumbai attacks, the terrorist attacks in Mumbai, in Taj, etc. And we made a play in response to that, that even though so much is going on in our country, we don't care, because just the election after that, only 33% people in South Mumbai constituency showed up to vote. And our play was based on that. And it was called Tu Gir Gaya To Kya, in the sense that we are indifferent, we do not care what's happening around us, and we do not pick up the mantle of our country, and therefore we need to do something about it. I think doing that play, going into the communities, talking to people about, what do they think needs to change in the country, made me think that I want to have a career in impact. I think a lot of people from that street play group actually made careers in impact after that. And thankfully, I also went on this thing called Jagriti Yatra, which was a very interesting experience. It is a train that takes you around the country. You meet a lot of social entrepreneurs. And after seeing just the length and breadth of India, as somebody who came from Delhi, I was like, this is a really interesting opportunity that I have to be born in this country. There are so many things to fix, and I have some level of privilege, so maybe I can try to do something. And then thankfully, when I passed out of college, even though I got a job in a consulting firm, the legislative assistant to member of parliament fellowship, the LAM fellowship, opened that year. And that, I think, everybody told me, what are you doing? You are leaving such a great, cushy job. And this was 2010. So I think the middle class dream was to kind of land a job in, Gurgaon and, work out of like great offices, etc. And then, but the fellowship, I was like, where else will I have an opportunity to work with a member of parliament? And I was in the first batch of LAMP. I worked with Mr. N.K. Singh. He was an ex-revenue secretary. He was a Rajya Sabha MP at that time. It was a very formative experience for me. And I think public policy is very addictive because it's so complex. And a lot of people, when they experience the thrill of solving such deep and unsolvable problems, it's very hard to go back to anything else. And since then, of course, I've been in this field, and thankfully, I think it was also a good time for us to enter, because a lot of things then came after that.
Thank you so much, Prajita. Next, should we go to Tanuj?
Sorry, on mute. Hey, so I think because this is a career-oriented question for a lot of young students, I just want to say something very, very upfront, is that none of this is planned, right? Not anybody tells you also this is what they want to do and they got there in a straight line, they're probably the exception. If you are in a point of life where you're struggling to think about what to do and how to do it, first thing, take it easy, right? You will figure it out. You're very smart. You're already here. You're already proactive in trying to figure it out. So you will figure it out. And with that, I want to sort of answer Nikhil's question by saying it's a very, very accident, right? Like everything more or less that I do has been coincidental and lucky. And the more people you talk to, the more you realize that's not unique, right? It is a lot of people stumble into the thing they want to do. For me, I guess it was disillusionment with things that I tried till I reached a place where so I just, for background, I used to do very tech geeky stuff. I had a company that used to build and fly drones, and what happened there was that the government simply took a knee-jerk reaction and said no drones. 2014 they banned drones altogether. And I tried to actually go to the regulator and work with them and try to help them, say, hey, this is a very useful technology. There's a lot of things that can be done. There's a lot of problems in India that can be solved with this, etc. Except I was able to make zero headway, right? Like I, in fact, if anything, lost hair during that process because I had a business which was very dependent. It was business to build and fly drones. We used to do it for the IPL. We still do now. We do cameras or whatever. That company, I have left it. But there's a lot of things that were on the line for us, right? And at 24, 25, we were making first, when there was no ban, a lot of money, and then suddenly we were losing a lot of money. So it was very personal for me to go to the government and to figure out this policy problem, right? And I realized that literally rocket science is not as hard. I could make drones fly. I could build that in my garage. I learned that from YouTube videos in less than 3 days. To figure out how to convince the government to do something that is in fact beneficial to the country was harder by an order of magnitude. And therefore I asked around for other people who are better at this than me, and I want to work with such people and learn how they manage to get things around. And I stumbled into this wonderful group of people in Bangalore, who, erstwhile iSpirit, but basically Nandan, Pramod, etc., who've been working on this thing called the India Stack. So that just sort of checked a lot of boxes for me. It sort of checked my geek boxes because I get to work on technology. It actually had meaning, and I can see the work that I was doing, being able to help people, and just wonderful people to work with, right? And so before that point, before 2016, when I joined this place, I had changed my job at a maximum of a year. 18 months, I think, is the longest I had stretched anything. And then I joined here, and now I've been here since 2016, right? So it takes some stumbling, right? And it takes some mistakes and whatever. Don't get disheartened. That's sort of a key thing I would like to say.
You, Supriya, you want to go next?
Yeah, good to see you, Aparajita and Tanuj. Long time, and hi, Nikhil, and everybody. Yeah, it's a funny question, right? Like, where does one's journey really begin, and what is pivotal? And I think if I truly reflect, it has been a bit of both. It's been both organic and conscious, if I had to say, at different points of time. It's been organic at a very high level in the sense, I think all of us are born with that desire to just connect with something that's larger than ourselves, right? And to just feel useful. I have two young kids, and they, you can see moments when they're trying to come and help you with something in the kitchen, or you're doing something and they say, like, can I do this? And I think it comes from a very innate thing like that. It is nothing grander than that. And I think that has been, of course, a part of a feeling or thoughts that I've had as a kid, into, with no intention of what it'll actually look like or how, but just you want to understand the world, you want to understand what's your place in it. At that level, I feel like it's been gradual. But I think, and so even my desire to actually study law was less ever. I never actually imagined myself standing in front of a courtroom or actually practicing law. I just thought it would be my best way to understand how we live and work with each other. Like, how does, how do we, like, decide that this is how we want to be governed, and how do we relate to and conform to things or not. And I think a series of accidents, like Tanuj said, I thought I would always work in some kind of largely purposeful place, but I didn't find anything through my entire college internships that called out to me. Like, I interned with a lot of nonprofit organizations, many bad choices on my end, not that there isn't good work happening, but nothing that called out to me, or one where I felt useful. Like, I was made to do internships where I was largely sitting in the corner doing some research, writing some paper that didn't make sense. And oddly, the internship I did with a law firm just was one of the best. They knew how to use me. I felt challenged, I felt invoked, and I really think that's a big part of what drives us all. And I must say that I ended up working for one of India's law firms, and loved every bit of it for when I was there. But I think the point of turning came, like, it became conscious at a different point, which was, I think one is when that growth curve starts becoming a little less steep, if I'm very honest, like when that hunger for learning wasn't there. But also, if I'm fully honest, I lost two friends of mine. This was when I was 26 or so, in random freak car accidents, and, like, another accident in that year. And it was one of those wake up calls of, like, where you look at yourself and say, is this, like, you sometimes keep thinking, I'll do something bad me, oh, I'll do this, and when I'm 50 I will do something. You have all these conversations in your head because you know that you want to do something beyond drafting some agreement that even your client is not reading, to be honest. But I think that was the point of, like, if I die tomorrow, because it became very real for me. It was no more a hypothetical thing. It became like, I could die today, and is this what I want to? And that's when I think my journey of learning began. So I joined this organization called Ashoka. I had no clue. At that time, I think I thought I only knew capital markets law. I only knew to do a certain, even within law, like a domain. And I just knew I had to kind of see the world. So Ashoka acted as that platform. I still had no idea of what I wanted to solve or how I was going to. I just knew I had to figure it out. So I think my conscious learning began more with learning, like I think Tanuj said, from people who have done it, and how, and just doing whatever they asked me to do for a long time before I think some ideas of my own popped in my head. But that's how it began.
Hey, thank you so much, Supriya, for just listening to three of you. What I'm taking away at least is life was continuously happening to all three of you, but you were very conscious at each point of where do I want to head next. You were assessing different things and taking the call that, okay, this is where I want to move next. quite interesting to see that. Okay, let me go one by one, different kinds of questions based on all of your experiences. First, let me ask Aprajita. Aprajita, as co-founder of YLAC, right? You're working with a lot of youngsters interested in public policy, in social impact, and research, and so on. What's the difference that you see in youngsters of today, which is this entire group here, compared to maybe when you were of this age and your peers of that age, right? What do you see the difference today versus then?
I think, Nikhil, there are some good differences and bad differences. First, let me talk about the good differences. I think the great thing about today's generation is just the amount of information that is available to people. I think this sense of being a part of something larger than themselves is very much there, I think, in young people. So YLAC actually works with a lot of high school students as well. And, we learn so much from them because the curriculums have gotten really updated. There's a lot more that they consume on the internet, even if they are not being taught in the schools. So they already feel like they are a part of something bigger than what I think we were doing as children, because we just didn't have that much information in terms of what's going on in the world. So they are very much alive to the fact that, there are problems, not only at India level, but like global level, like climate change, etc. And that citizens have a role to play in that. So that's great. I think the flip side of that is, because of the internet, there's obviously a lot more polarization, and therefore there's a lot of cancel culture as well. So what happens is that many times we find that young people are so opposed to hearing even opposing viewpoints. Just before you can say anything, there's always a fear of getting cancelled. Now that unfortunately is coming in the way of discourse. And one thing that is fundamental to democracy and progress is a two-way discourse of ideas and two-way exchange of ideas, and the ability to learn and be open to coaching others who probably do not know what you already know. So I think that is something that is definitely kind of becoming a little bit of an issue that needs to be addressed with younger people. And I think the third thing is that as India's economic growth has happened, there are a lot of people now who are economically secure enough to go into careers that were deemed risky earlier, which I think is a great thing for a country to happen, because innovation needs people who are able to take risks, and people who are able to take risks have either some form of social capital or cultural capital or actual capital in terms of money. So there are a lot of, for example, people now whose parents' generation have already sort of done that kind of hard work. There's a base that they are starting from. They're much better off where their parents were, or they've gone to very good institutes, whether in India or abroad, and therefore they feel emboldened to take career choices that I think a lot of people 10-15 years earlier would be hesitant to do. So I think in terms of just the opportunity that India has right now, given that we've had this kind of economic growth and the kind of opportunities now young people have had, we are in a really good place, provided we can solve this problem of polarization that we have globally, not just in India.
All right, thank you so much, Aprajita. Tanuj, let me bring you in on the complexity that Aprajita was highlighting. I'm sure as head of People Plus AI, you're also actively thinking and navigating some of the ethical considerations on surrounding AI, right? And the related sectors as well, I'm sure. How do you go about thinking of such complex questions, and how do you go about finding answers? Because there's no one right way of looking at it.
Yeah. Excellent question, Nikhil. You're right. I think the number one, I'll build off what Aparajita is saying, right? I think the folly of youth, and myself included, right? Not saying young people systematically, is that you learn just about enough to start becoming very confident in your very radical take, right? I had this anti-capitalism conversation just yesterday, right? And I really wanted to sort of understand, what do you think, right? Because I think one thing is that it's very easy to point flaws in the system, and it's probably slightly harder, but not very hard to tear something down, right? But to get to if you've heard of Chesterton's fence, right? I don't know if you know the idea of Chesterton's fence, right? So essentially you come across a fence in a wide open field, right? Just wide open, and there's a fence in the middle. You look at that fence, there are two kinds of people, right? You can come in and they say, how stupid, why is there a fence here? I should remove this fence, right? Because it makes no sense to me, right? Or you can be the kind of person who tries to inquire, wait, why did we put up a fence in the first place? Maybe it's not needed all year round in this wide open field, but once a year something happens or something goes wrong because of which somebody decided to erect a fence, right? And I think that so this idea is called Chesterton's fence. Don't tear down a fence unless you know why it was put up, right? Similarly, right, like it is very easy to look at a system and point flaws, but I mean, I would just encourage all of you all to look at why it needs to exist in the first place. And this is easier to say for systems that exist, but for systems that don't exist, which is what your original question is, I think it's important to listen, to start not by solution mindset at all, right? But can I describe the problem, right? Can I describe the fence that I want to put up? Why is it needed, etc. Right? So yes, I do think that when you're younger and read and you're very convinced of how your idea is simpler, more radical, more going to be more effective, and the people entrenched in the system simply don't care enough to do this really cool thing that I'm saying. And I would encourage you, right? Sometimes you are right. Sometimes a lot of us do get jaded, right? And we've been in this system long. But I would encourage you to be able to take the other side ideologically and say, why are they asking for offense, right? Can you really be empathetic and understand? And this principle applies when you're trying to think of some complex problem like ethics and AI, is that can you understand the fears? But here is my sort of personal take on this, right? Complexity or problem spaces should not deter you from action, because clarity does not come from sitting and pondering harder. It comes from taking maybe more cautious steps, but taking steps, right? And figuring out from that what you learn, and then figuring out how to fold that back into creating something new. So yeah, I mean, empathy, essentially listening and then action, right? Just because something is problematic or could be does not mean you do nothing, because usually the cost of doing nothing is significantly higher, right? If you don't, UPI leads to fraud. We're seeing it. We're seeing UPI frauds, right? But if you don't make UPI, what's the cost, right? So the cost of doing nothing is something you should factor into the sort of conversations that you have.
Thank you, Tanuj. Let me bring Supriya in again, a related question. Supriya, as part of Ashoka as well, and now with Agami as well, you're working with a lot of social entrepreneurs, right, within the community. Linking to what Abhijita and Tanuj were saying, what are some common traits that you see or notice in successful social entrepreneurs? Are they related to what they are saying, or is there something more that you see successful entrepreneurs doing?
No, very much related. Very much related, actually. I think the first thing that I always, a precondition that I notice for most is almost like how do they see the world, right? They come from a sense of abundance. There is a sense of possibility. You can put it all under the broad realm of optimism, but you kind of are focusing on what is possible versus kind of just saying, this is broken, like what Tanuj was. You're not kind of just saying, you're not ranting. They're not people who fundamentally rant. Their mind naturally, either due to training or whatever disposition, continuously looks at what is the opportunity or possibility. And I think it is more important than I think it, because it's almost like it underlines every action that they do, right? It's almost the invisible thing that enables you to do multiple things. For example, when you can, it's not just vis-a-vis your idea that, oh, here is a problem that can be worth solving. Of course, at a system level, it helps them see why some previous problems might have not worked or not. But even vis-a-vis people, they almost see what is possible in a person, right? Like I have seen people, like the best social entrepreneurs, bring out the best in people. And that is because they don't look and classify people as you are good and bad and ugly or beautiful, but as to say, what do I can cut through Nikhil to kind of see, here is what I think Nikhil's possibility is. And they know, because they genuinely see the best in most things, they know how to evoke that in people. They almost like cut the crap, the rest of it out. And that has a deeply inspiring role, both at a system level and at an individual level, because when you're talking about social change or any change, fundamentally you're asking people to do things they haven't done before. And that, it's one thing to say, I have this cool idea that can do this, that, and that's one thing to see. But at a deeper level, I think this mindset is a huge thing that comes into play. But many of the other things are what Aparajita and Tanuj touched upon, that they are fundamentally less tied to their ideas or solution, but more about solving a problem. So their eyes are very tight on what needs to happen and are very quick to kind of say, oh, this that I created didn't work, chuck it and let's do something else, right? And that kind of agility comes when your mindset is more in, I would say, in service of a problem rather than a particular thing. So that agility, that ability to continuously listen, not just in the beginning, but as ideas and things kind of evolve, are also very, very, very critical. So these are some of the things. Of course, there's a lot. But I would also say people who are successful doesn't mean that they're successful forever. Many have periods of doing that and sustaining that energy perspective, because it takes so many different forces to kind of come together. But I would say that being able to stay humble and kind of know where your own, I think the people I would say who I've seen it do multiple times over, there are many I've seen it kind of do at a particular time and then peak and it ends there, versus the people who have are the people who have that continuous ability to learn and have what I would say a range. They have a range of interests, everything from arts, sports, and they know how to combine these beautiful things to sort of progress people, because they see the world more fully than I only care about justice, or I only care, because they understand that people are complex, we are influenced by different things, and they know how to bring those different parts together.
Tanuj, let me check with you on one thing, right? On the technology side, there's all of us sort of understand today almost intuitively that technology is one of a very big critical enabler to a lot of problems, right? You can talk about tech first, tech enabled, DPG, TPI. There's a lot of technology going on. How do you see, how would you explain the kind of role technology brings to solving complex social problems? What are the different kinds of role that technology plays?
It's a very powerful way of thinking about it. Like, if you can have a mental model for what technology does, and then use it in that capacity. Because look, the name people plus AI, right? Like, given, like you said, DPG, DPI, is that those words don't leave me, right? Like, so just want to like clarify, right? Because people look at us and say, oh, these guys use technology for everything, right? And it's the other way around, right? It's that we know that for certain kinds of problems, you can use technology to convert something from a big, hairy, messy problem to a smaller sub-problem that is hopefully easier to manage. So the first thing that, and therefore the name people plus AI, right, is that a shiny new toy comes around, which is AI. Everybody's excited. There's a lot of people who are going to be like, oh, AI can do this, therefore I will make a chatbot for everything, right? And that's what you're seeing: chatbot for this, chatbot for that, chatbot for this, right? But it takes a very different mindset to start with the people and their problems and say, people, this is the problem that people have and they will continue to have, right? And therefore, how can technology, especially this new technology, AI, help with that? So the way to look at technology, the way that works for us, is that you start by asking the question, whose agency is this increasing? Is this increasing agency of the person at the edge, or is this increasing the agency of some more person building a platform, building a technology? So an Amazon and Uber in the classic sense is built so that Uber has more power, right? You say that the driver gets more rides or whatever, but like we've seen how that plays out over long 10-15 years, is that when the pandemic came, for example, Uber raised its commissions from 25 to 35% as rides were going down, because driver needed to survive, Uber needed to survive, Uber showed whom it cares about more, right? So the question to us is, whose agency? The way to think about technology that I personally prefer is that there are certain kinds of problems that are wicked. Coordination, right? You've heard of prisoner's dilemma, like incentives misalignment, etc. The way that technology really, for me, shines is that on those classic multi-agent problems, right? Like all of us humans, companies, this, that, together, agents, the role of coordinating being done neutrally and faithfully to some code of law actually then enables everybody to put their trust in the system. That paradigm of technology, to me, is the whole DPI paradigm, right? That has been working for us. And with AI, we're hopefully going to see in another new paradigm, right? Which is where you have this idea of a technology fiduciary. So the way that, when you do investments, you can either go to a person who's an agent of the mutual fund company, or you can go to an investment advisor, and how SEBI dictates that one is fiduciary to you. So they only take money from you directly, not through commissions, and therefore you hope that their incentive is aligned to you. I believe with AI, the new paradigm that we are going to see is that there is technology who's aligned to you. Somebody else may write the code, somebody else may pay for software, but it just makes more sense for them to be aligned to you because you're buying, as opposed to being agents of the companies, right? So I see that paradigm emerging, and it will change the way we do and deal with a lot of technology very soon. So instead of an Amazon making an AI bot to tell you what product they have and which is good, what if you had a shopper which actually tells you, hey, you know what? There's no point paying an extra $3,000 for this brand, right? Or paying an extra whatever for this, because this is just as good. In fact, this is made at the same factory, right? Or something like that would be a lot more sort of fiduciary to you, and that can change the world in very meaningful ways. From selling insurance to being able to understand what insurance works for my use case, right? So I do see that flip coming, and those are the two paradigms that really matter to me. One being this coordination problem solver, and the second being sort of fiduciary to the user.
Okay, thank you, Tanuj. Let me pick up Rajita next, and this is a question that I'll ask Supriya, Tanuj, both of you as well, and sort of putting all three of you on the spot here. One of the objectives of this whole the governance challenge that is in its cohort 2 is to inspire young folks to make the choice of moving into impact space and the social space, right? Having said that, I do also notice that all three of you have been in the for-profit corporate space and then made the choice here, right? And then we are trying to inspire everyone, no, you choose impact. So I'm going to put all three of you on spot. What would you suggest to the graduating batch, right? How should they go about thinking of making this choice? Should they first get into for-profit corporate, earn some money, then say, okay, let me now give back to the society and work in the impact space? Is there a different way of thinking about it? How should they go? What is the mental model that you would recommend?
Great, thanks, Nikhil. I think there's a question in the chat also, which is relating to it, that what should people who are doing MBA do to transition into social impact space? I think we get this question asked a lot because in Vilac, we obviously work with a lot of young professionals who want to switch to public policy as a career. We are just having a policy in action program right now. I think there are some 10 people who are from different IIMs in that cohort as well. And I think the answer to that, I don't think it's uniform for everyone. To be honest, I think there is, initially at least, when you switch from, say, a for-profit sector to social impact sector, there is some sort of, maybe pay cut, or sometimes like arbitrage to be made in terms of the satisfaction that you will get from your work versus maybe what you will get paid, especially initially. And it's probably not that different for other careers also. If you want to switch a career, sometimes you need to start from early on. So I think it comes from a place of privilege as well. It obviously depends on people's own personal circumstances, where they are, what kind of background they come from. But I think if you are interested, this space is evolving a lot. There are a lot of new opportunities now, and this space also has many different actors. So first, one needs to understand what are the different kinds of actors in the impact space. For example, Samagra does governance consulting, which is working directly with the governments on solving some of the problems that state governments, etc., are facing. TQH, which is my firm, is actually working with a lot of private sector as well as philanthropic organizations on how to craft better policies. Now, that is a little different than what governance is. And then there is social impact consulting, which is working with philanthropies and helping them understand what are the priorities that they should direct money towards and what kind of organizations they should support. Similarly, there's impact investing. There are think tanks. There are organizations that work on the ground. So the impact space itself is really, really large. And then there are jobs which are at the intersection of impact and also like where private sector is coming into play. For example, there are so many CSR organizations, there are foundations, etc. So first one needs to understand the space a little bit more to see where can you use your existing skills. And to do that, there are a lot of opportunities. You should upskill yourself, attend programs, which will give you this kind of information and a good understanding of the space, and then find a place where you can use your existing skills. So, for example, I'm assuming that since all of you are doing an MBA, problem solving skills is something that you've all been trained on. And where can they be applied in the impact space is a good place to start thinking about it.
Supriya, you want to go next?
Sure. So I think the first is the answer is it comes down to a personal choice. I don't think there's one way that we're all going to make this journey. But I think some misconceptions I want to clear, and then maybe some things that can help make these decisions. I think there's nothing to say that for-profit pays more than non-for-profit, or like if you're talking about like if our parameters are looking at job as pay, then I think it's already not necessarily a relevant question, right? I just think I want to put out that there is a range of for-profit entities that pay really poorly and some non-profits, if in terms of how you're legally structured, that pay well. But having said that, I think it comes down to 2 or 3 different factors. One is it's almost like where are you in your life in terms of the choices that you want to make, clarity, hunger for what you want to do, and the clarity of what work you have. I think we all have those trigger points happening at completely different times in our life, and we have to honor that personal journey more than anything else. But I feel like if it is more around figuring what work should mean to you is the more important question. And you might find that there are incredible for-profit entities doing very important, impactful work, and non-for-profits that may or may not be doing. So I think the question is, where do you want to find your purpose? The legal entity, like for example, like we work with people who've been the GC of companies, or who have been within like different companies that have driven huge impact from where they are sitting, right? So I don't think it's got to do with like a job in terms of how you find purpose. I don't think there is one way it can kind of appear. Just because you've joined a non-profit organization does not equal to necessarily making a radical difference to the world or something. I just want to reframe it to saying, how do we look at our own positions wherever we are? So even if you're an associate in a law firm or a consulting or whatever, how do you want to approach, and how much freedom are you being given in the role that you have to have the autonomy and the decision making power to be able to drive an idea the direction you want? I'll give you an example. We worked heavily with ICICI and 10 banks to bring online dispute resolution into how they resolve problems, right? That couldn't have happened without the private sector, and if you didn't have progressive people doing things from there. So I just want to kind of say that I would frame the question more from a purpose and autonomy perspective, and what you want your work to mean, rather than where you are actually sitting. You could be in the government or for-profit or not-for-profit, and that matters lesser to me.
Yeah.
Tanuj, before you come in, I know you're short on time. So I'll just add one more question, and then you can answer both together, and then you can hit. Apart from this question, the linked is, what kind of opportunities do you see basis all of this in the intersection of technology and impact, technology and governance? How will you look at it?
So okay,
both questions together.
Yeah, no, there's a what Supriya said is, I think, is excellent, right? And I would just add that sort of first there's already a book, Daniel H. Pink, called Drive, which basically says what she's saying, and adds one more thing is mastery, right? Mastery, autonomy, purpose, right? I think Supriya's own story was that she realized she's a great lawyer and she's doing good work, and that's being challenged, like intellectually challenged, and then after that, autonomy and purpose, once you feel like you have a sense of mastery, it matters. I think the other thing I've seen so many people talk about sector and job or org. I find that if you are not working with people whom you want to get up and want to meet every day, I think you're going to be the unhappiest, right? Like the number one reason why people quit is a bad boss, right? Like that's it. So if you are in a space where even if you're doing work, but it's toxic, I mean, my sincere advice to you is leave right now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for bonus. Don't wait for that one title change and then you'll go. Just quit. Your time is way more valuable than whatever leg up you think you're going to get by getting some certificate or some sort of measly carrot that they're dangling in front of you, right? So choose yourself, right, and have self-respect and dignity, and that will go a lot further than anything else, right? That's number one on that conversation. And yeah, sort of where do I see possibility, technology, and impact today? I think that so I'll answer this question in two ways, right? Like one is technology is going to be everywhere, right? So it's not like you're going to be able to not think about it or not get out of it. Your question just becomes how deep do I engage with it, right? Am I programming this? Am I at that level? Am I understanding it to design a product? Am I sort of running a company that uses technology to do this, or I'm running a project that uses technology? So your engagement level you get to decide again on basis the question of mastery, right? Like how deep do you want to understand and work with this technology? Where is the places where you can make an impact? I think it's hard to just pick one. I feel like I'll not be picking the others and being unfair, but personally, what drives me as sort of gets me very excited is that a lot of policy impact space is now starting to look at technology, especially DPI, DPGs, as a way to solve every problem. I'm skeptical myself of every problem can be solved with this, but the attempt is very sort of useful if you're early in your career, right? Learning, everybody wants to be where success is at, but even being in a project that did not work or does not fail may not seem very valuable in the short term, but is extremely valuable in the long run. Because if a lot of everybody here is type A, right? You've only gone from success to success. I think my life also took a pivot only when I got punched in the face, right? Only when you fail, only when you try something and it doesn't land, when it's no longer you're not getting straight A's anymore, is when you learn and grow. So don't be afraid of that. I think a lot of organizations now are looking at building this sort of neutral technology platform to solve a wide problem, and the list is very large. So I don't want to name anything specific, but I think there's a lot of them. Since this is a little bit of career advice, and what people are thinking about is that I do think somebody asked that question on mentors also. I do think optimize for those, like use your 20s to level up, right, in every which way. Don't think so hard about at least 10%. If somebody is offering you a job that's double the salary, sure. But if it's a 10-20% difference, I would say don't optimize on money, don't optimize on title, optimize for the people you're going to work with, right? And whether you feel confident and good about yourself at the end of it, because that has massive payoffs, right? All the achievements will get done by the time you're 30 or 35, or you will stop caring about them, right? If you have to become partner at a law firm, 33 or something, you become one. Now what? Now you have another 20, 30 years of your career, right? And there, what matters are the soft skills you've picked up. So don't be in a hurry. Like, just sort of go where you feel good about yourself. I think that's sort of my thing.
Thank you, Tanuj. Yes, Supriya, you have your.
No, I just wanted to add to something Tanuj said, which is around the idea of time. It's ultimately like when you come to what decision you want to make and when, it comes down to really also how you value your time. And the truth is that's our only asset that is not replenishable. It's the one thing that we are always racing against. We have this finite time on earth. We don't know how long that is. And then the question is, if you know then what you want to do, I would say do it now. There is no logical reason to push it to another day. If you know where you are today is not where you want to be, and even if you don't know where you want to go, then take the first step to get out of it. And I think because sometimes people say, I don't know what I want to do and which problem I want to solve or what it is. It's okay, nobody knows. I mean, like today, even after all these years, I think I'm doing this for now. I don't know if I'm going to be doing this forever. And I think the point is just that you take one step at a time. I don't think you need to have a plan. I don't think, and those plans don't serve us. So so I just think it's, if you know where you are is not where you want to be, then take any step that will take you to a new direction. It doesn't matter. Like when I quit my law firm, I first went to work in wildlife, doing manual work for like 6 months. It had nothing, like I was like cutting wood, building houses, cleaning poop for 6 months. And that's not where I am, but it gave me the courage to say I can learn something new and do something else. And then or if you know where you want to go there now. I just think like life is really too short. But if you don't know and you're happy where you are, then just be where you are. Like, I think if that's where you are, then stay tight.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just add a little bit on the technology question? I think, and it's also, I think, relevant for this governance challenge. I was reading through the case study and I found it really interesting because we end up doing a lot of work on gender in TQH, on gender policy. I think technology obviously is a great enabler and solving many things that earlier were matching problems that we just could not solve, as Tanuj was saying earlier. And also, DPI, DPG is a technology solution, but it's also being seen as a solution to concentration of power in big tech, which is something that a lot of countries are trying to solve across the world. Because now there are two power centers: there are governments, and then there are these big tech companies. There are a lot of public discourses happening. But I also think that as people who are thinking about how to deploy technology, it's very important for us to think about the economic ecosystem in which technology exists. Who owns technology? Who controls technology? Who controls data that is generated through any of the systems that we are building? And who are the people who get left out of technology, right? And I think, especially when working on women and working on gender, it is something which needs to be taken into account, because a lot of women still do not have personal devices, they do not have access to internet. So if we digitize everything without making systems that will hold their hand through this transition and who will enable them to access benefits on digital means, then we leave people out and we cement inequality even more than what it was earlier. So I think that is just the flip side to technology. And a lot of work in policy is not just focused on, building DPGs and DPIs, but also seeing how the rest of society is moving with technology so that it becomes an enabler and not something that cements inequalities more in society. Just wanted to give that disclaimer because you guys are working on gender. So, and that's something that comes up again and again.
Yeah. Thanks, Aparajita. My last question to both of you, Supriya and Aparajita, if you had to pick one phrase, one sentence, one, I don't know, proverb, one poem, anything that everyone here should hold in good stead as they move forward in this journey. Anything that has resonated with you through your entire life.
Should I go first? I think,
Yeah, I think Supriya is stuck.
I think she's stuck.
No, I'm here. I'm back, I think, in another room.
Okay.
Something happened to my thing.
Great.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that once I just woke up and my mom just had put this quote in my bedroom, it's really stayed with me. It says that 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you did not do than the things that you did do. So sail away from your safe harbor and explore, dream, and discover. I think that's something that really helps me. And the second thing is that nobody cares about you as much as we care about ourselves. So sometimes we really keep thinking about the fact that, oh, what does this person think about me? What does that person think about me? And sometimes that constrains us in taking some decisions that are not, that is a little bit out of, what is expected of us. And I think just keeping that in mind, it has really helped me at least to take some risks that maybe I would have not taken, but I think some of them have paid off. If they didn't pay off, then I've learned something and, it paid off like that.
Supriya?
I think it's not got only to do with work, but I think there's this line that says there's nowhere else to be. But I think what it's effectively saying is that um, there is only the present that there is, that sometimes because we have memory, we sometimes sit worrying about what happened before, why I did that, why I should have, and all of that. But the truth is, it's just a figment of our imagination. It's our memory. I mean, it's just a part of our memory, but it's not, it doesn't really exist. Certain creatures and animals on this planet don't have it and don't suffer from those problems. And some others are where we worry about what will happen if this doesn't work, and everything that relates to the future. And that's because we have this ability to imagine indefinitely. And I think this line that there is nowhere else to be puts it in context to say, that there is only this now moment. So it allows me to keep coming back whenever my mind goes, either to beat myself about something in the past to feel guilty, or worry about the future, to just say, okay, am I having a good time today and doing this to the best that I know, and to be kind to myself for the mistakes I made. I think this line really helps me stay rooted on that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Supriya, Prajita, and Tanuj, This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I hope everybody had a lot to take away. A bunch of things would have resonated. I'm sorry we couldn't probably answer all of the questions that were there on the chat, but I hope most of it has been covered. Thank you once again to everyone.
Thanks,
Back to Venkatesh.
Thank you. And we'll
Thank
just
you.
say that if anyone wants to reach out for anything, please feel free to reach out. Nikhil or someone from Samagra can share the email, and happy to chat.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Um, Next up, with the closure of this panel discussion, we have the presentations of all the teams, and for the same, we have shared the links. There are two links that people have to join in, and those two links are for two different Zoom sessions, wherein presentations one after the other will be conducted just the way they were conducted last time, yesterday, right? So I'll request that after the closure of this webinar, all of you can join the respective two links, and we can immediately start the presentations in the sequence given. So thank you so much, everyone. I've shared the links on the chat here as well. Thank you.